August 1945. A train cuts through the Colorado desert, carrying dozens of Japanese women and children. They are prisoners of war, repatriated from Japan after years of conflict. Among them, a 10-year-old girl named Lily presses her face against the window, watching the barren landscape stretch endlessly. She has heard stories about Americans, stories of monsters, of cruelty, of unimaginable suffering. Her mother warned her, "They will make us pay for the war." But as the train slows and the barbed wire fences of a Mache internment camp come into view, Lily feels something unexpected. Not the terror she anticipated, but confusion. Because the soldiers waiting at the station are not pointing guns. They are simply waiting. This is the story of a child who discovered that the enemy was human, and that realization would haunt her for the rest of her life. When the train doors open, the heat hits them first. Dry, suffocating Colorado heat. Lily steps down, clutching her mother's hand. Around them, other women and children emerge, their faces marked by exhaustion and fear. They have survived bombings, starvation, the collapse of their homeland. Now they stand on enemy soil, waiting for punishment. But the American soldiers do not strike them. They do not shout. One young soldier, barely 20 years old, gestures toward a row of barracks. "This way, please," he says in broken Japanese. His voice is polite, almost gentle. Lily stares at him, searching for the cruelty she was promised. She finds none. Her mother tightens her grip. "Do not trust them," she whispers. "This is a trick." The camp itself is a grid of wooden barracks surrounded by barbed wire and guard towers. Dust rises with every step. The sun beats down mercilessly. Yet as they are led to their assigned quarters, Lily notices something strange. The soldiers are carrying their bags, offering water. One soldier smiles at a crying child and hands her a piece of candy. The child recoils, terrified, but the soldier simply places it on the ground and walks away. Inside the barracks, the women gather. The space is cramped but clean. There are cots with thin mattresses, a small stove, windows with screens. It is nothing like the rubble and ash they left behind in Japan. Fumiko, an older woman with gray streaking her hair, speaks first. "They want us to feel comfortable before they torture us. This is psychological warfare." Other women murmur in agreement. They have been taught to expect brutality. The absence of it feels like a trap. But Lily cannot stop thinking about the soldiers' smile, the candy on the ground, the careful way they were guided, not shoved, into the barracks. That evening, the prisoners are called to the mess hall. Lily walks beside her mother, every muscle tense with anticipation. She imagines rotten food, scraps meant to humiliate them. But when she enters the hall and sees the tables laden with bread, vegetables, meat, and fruit, her mind goes blank. Her mother's hand trembles as she takes a plate. "This cannot be real," she whispers. Lily sits and stares at the food. It is more than she has seen in years. In Japan, they ate grass. They boiled tree bark to make soup. Her little brother died of starvation 3 months before the war ended. And now, here, in an enemy prison, there is abundance. She takes a bite of bread. It is soft, warm, real. Her eyes fill with tears. Around her, other women eat in silence. Some cry. Others stare at their plates as if the food might vanish. The cognitive dissonance is overwhelming. They were told Americans were devils, monsters who would strip them of dignity and humanity. But the monster is feeding them. The monster is housing them. The monster is treating them better than their own government ever did. After dinner, as Lily walks back to the barracks, she sees the same young soldier from earlier. He is standing near the fence, smoking a cigarette. When he notices her watching, he waves, not mockingly. Just a simple, human gesture of acknowledgement. Lily does not wave back. She is too confused, too frightened by what this kindness might mean. That night, lying on her cot, she listens to the women whisper. Some speak of escape, others of suicide, preferring death to the dishonor of accepting enemy mercy. Her mother strokes her hair and says, "We must be strong, Lily. We must not forget who we are." But Lily is already forgetting. Or perhaps she is remembering something she was never supposed to know, that enemies are people too. And that truth, simple, devastating, undeniable, will shatter everything she thought she understood about loyalty, honor, and war. The second morning at Amache begins with uncertainty. Lily wakes to the sound of footsteps outside the barracks, American soldiers making their rounds. Her mother is already awake, sitting upright on her cot, watching the door as if expecting it to burst open at any moment. The other women stir slowly, their faces etched with exhaustion that sleep cannot cure. When they step outside, the Colorado sun is already climbing, casting long shadows across the camp. Lily notices a soldier approaching their barracks carrying a crate. The women instinctively step back, forming a protective cluster. But the soldier simply sets the crate down and opens it, revealing bars of soap, toothbrushes, and small towels. "For you," he says in halting Japanese, gesturing toward the items. No one moves. The silence stretches uncomfortably. Finally, Fumiko steps forward, her expression hardened with suspicion. She takes a bar of soap, examines it as if searching for poison, then nods curtly. Only then do the other women approach. Lily watches this exchange with growing confusion. In Japan, she was taught that Americans were barbaric, that they tortured prisoners and celebrated cruelty, yet here they are, distributing soap, simple, mundane soap. The contradiction gnaws at her. Throughout the morning, small acts of kindness continue to appear like cracks in a dam. A soldier helps an elderly woman carry water. Another repairs a broken window screen without being asked. At one point, Lily sees a young guard playing catch with a Japanese boy near the fence, both laughing. Her mother notices her watching. "Do not let them deceive you, Lily," she says quietly. "Kindness can be a weapon too." But what kind of weapon is this, Lily wonders? What battle are they fighting with soap and smiles? By midday, the women gather in the shade of their barracks, speaking in hushed tones. Fumiko leads the conversation, her voice sharp with conviction. "They are softening us, making us dependent. When we are weak and grateful, that is when they will strike." A younger woman named Keiko shakes her head. "But why feed us so well? Why give us medicine when we are sick? If they wanted us dead, we would be dead already." "It is about control," Fumiko insists. "They want us to forget ourselves, to betray our country with gratitude." The word betrayal hangs in the air like smoke. Lily feels it settle in her chest. Is it betrayal to accept food when you are starving? Is it betrayal to feel relief when someone treats you with dignity? That afternoon, Lily meets a girl named Yuki near the water pump. Yuki is 12, with serious eyes and calloused hands. They speak little at first, both uncertain how to navigate this strange new reality. But eventually, Yuki breaks the silence. "Did you see the chocolate yesterday?" she asks. Lily nods. "Her soldier gave some to the children. I ate mine," Yuki admits, her voice dropping to a whisper, "and I feel terrible about it." "Why?" "Because it tasted good. Because for a moment I forgot to hate them." The confession strikes Lily deeply. She has felt the same guilt, the same cognitive dissonance tearing at her insides. How can she hate people who feed her? How can she remain loyal to a country that let her brother starve? Later that evening, something happens that will stay with Lily forever. An older woman named Sachiko collapses near the latrines, blood seeping through the bandages on her infected leg. Within minutes, an American medic arrives. He kneels beside her, speaking softly, cleaning the wound with careful precision. Sachiko weeps, not from pain, but from something deeper. Confusion, shame, the unbearable weight of receiving care from the enemy. Lily watches from a distance as the medic finishes bandaging the wound and pats Sachiko's shoulder gently before leaving. The gesture is so simple, so human, that it feels like violence, because it destroys the narrative Lily has carried her entire life. That night, lying in the darkness, Lily listens to her mother's breathing. She wants to ask questions but does not know how to form them. How do you ask if everything you were taught was a lie? How do you reconcile hatred with humanity? Outside Giku, a guard walks past their window. His shadow moves slowly across the wall. Lily wonders if he has a family, if he misses them, if he thinks about the people he is guarding, not as enemies, but as mothers and daughters and frightened children. The thought terrifies her more than any threat of violence ever could, because if Americans are human, then what does that make her? What does that make Japan? What does that make the war that killed her brother and destroyed her home? These questions have no answers. Not yet. But they are growing, spreading like roots through the foundation of everything she believes. And Lily knows, even at 10 years old, that once these questions take hold, there is no going back. The world is not as simple as she was told. And that realization is the most dangerous thing she has ever encountered. Days blend into weeks at Amache. The initial shock fades, replaced by a numbing routine. Wake at dawn, breakfast in the mess hall, light work assignments, cleaning, mending, organizing supplies, lunch, afternoon rest, dinner, sleep. The rhythm is steady, predictable, almost peaceful. And that peace is precisely what disturbs the women most. Lily learns the geography of the camp by heart, the rows of barracks numbered and identical, the mess hall with its long tables, the medical building where the American doctor works, the recreation area where children are allowed to play under supervision, the barbed wire fence that reminds them, always, that they are prisoners. Yet the word prisoner feels increasingly hollow. Prisoners are not given fresh vegetables. Prisoners do not receive medical care. Prisoners are not asked politely to help with laundry duty. Lily spends her mornings with Yuki and other children, forming a small community of confusion and adaptation. They create games, tell stories, try to maintain fragments of normalcy, but beneath every game lies the same unspoken question: what are we supposed to feel? One afternoon, Lily watches her mother sitting alone outside the barracks, staring at nothing. She approaches quietly and sits beside her. "Mama, are you sick?" Her mother does not answer immediately. When she finally speaks, her voice is distant. "I am tired, Lily. Not in my body, in my mind." "What do you mean?" "Every day, I wake up and prepare myself to suffer, to endure, to resist. But there is nothing to resist. They give us food. They treat our wounds. They smile at us." She pauses, her hands trembling slightly. "I do not know how to exist like this. I do not know what I am supposed to be." Lily understands. The absence of cruelty has become its own form of torture, psychological, disorienting, relentless. Fumiko continues to rally the older women, insisting that acceptance equals betrayal. She organizes evening gatherings where they speak of Japan, of honor, of the duty to remain unbroken. But even her voice has lost some of its conviction. Even she cannot ignore the reality that surrounds them. One evening, a soldier brings a crate of books to the camp. Japanese books, salvaged from somewhere, offered as a gesture of goodwill. The women receive them in silence, handling the volumes as if they might explode. Inside are poems, stories, histories of their own culture. The Americans have given them back a piece of themselves. That night, Lily hears crying from the far corner of the barracks. It is Sachiko, the woman whose leg was treated by the medic weeks ago. Her wound has healed, but something inside her has broken. She sobs into her hands, repeating the same words over and over. "I cannot hate them. I cannot hate them. What is wrong with me?" No one answers her, because they all feel it too. The psychological toll becomes visible in small ways. Some women stop speaking entirely, retreating into silence. Others become obsessively tidy, scrubbing the barracks floors until their hands bleed, as if cleanliness might restore order to their fractured identities. A few begin to smile at the soldiers, cautiously at first, then more freely. And each smile feels like a small death of who they used to be. Lily begins to document her thoughts in a small notebook given to her by a teacher who runs informal classes for the children. She writes about the food, the soldiers, the contradictions. She writes about her brother who died in Japan and wonders if he would have lived had he been here instead. The thought makes her nauseous with guilt. One afternoon, Yuki asks her a question that has no good answer. "Lily, when we go back to Japan, what will we tell them? That the Americans were kind to us?" Lily thinks for a long moment. "Maybe we will not tell them anything. But they will ask. Then we will lie." The word hangs between them. Lie. Because the truth is too complicated, too dangerous, too corrosive to everything they are supposed to believe. At night, Lily lies awake, listening to the sounds of the camp, footsteps of guards making rounds, whispered conversations in neighboring barracks, the wind moving through the barbed wire, creating a low, mournful hum. She thinks about home, about Japan, about the ruins waiting for her, and she realizes something that terrifies her. She does not want to leave Amach. December arrives cold and unexpected. The Colorado desert, scorching in summer, transforms into a landscape of frost and biting wind. The women huddle in their barracks, wrapping themselves in the thin blankets provided by the camp administration. But something else is coming with the cold, something none of them anticipated. The soldiers begin decorating the camp. Strings of lights appear along the mess hall. A small evergreen tree is erected near the entrance, adorned with paper ornaments. The Americans are preparing for Christmas. Lily watches the preparations with curiosity. She knows little about this foreign holiday, only that it involves gifts and celebration. The idea of celebration feels absurd in a prison camp. Yet the soldiers work with genuine enthusiasm, their breath visible in the cold air as they hang decorations and plan something the women cannot yet comprehend. On Christmas Eve, the prisoners are called to the mess hall. They enter reluctantly, expecting another meal, another routine evening. But the hall has been transformed. Candles flicker on the tables. The tree glows with makeshift lights, and beside each place setting sits a small wrapped package. Lily stares at the package in front of her seat. Her mother stands frozen beside her, unable to process what she is seeing. Around them, women whisper anxiously, suspicion mixing with confusion. An American officer stands and addresses them in careful Japanese. "We know you are far from home. We know this is not your holiday. But we wanted to give you something to remember, that even in difficult times, there is kindness in the world. These are small gifts. Please accept them with our respect." The word respect echoes strangely. Respect from captors, respect from enemies. Slowly, hesitantly, the women sit. Lily's hands shake as she unwraps her package. Inside is a bar of chocolate, a small mirror, and a piece of soap shaped like a flower. Simple things, inexpensive things. Yet she holds them as if they are made of gold. She looks around and sees other women crying silently as they open their gifts. Fumiko clutches a handkerchief embroidered with her initial, tears streaming down her weathered face. Yuki holds a small doll, pressing it to her chest. Sachiko stares at a tube of hand cream, her lips trembling. The Americans have given them dignity wrapped in paper, and it is unbearable. That night back in the barracks, the women do not speak. They sit with their gifts, each one grappling with the same impossible reality. Lily breaks off a piece of chocolate and places it on her tongue. The sweetness is overwhelming. She has not tasted anything like this since before the war, perhaps never in her entire life. She thinks of her brother, of the days when they shared a single bowl of rice, watering it down to make it last. Of the morning she woke to find him cold and still, his small body finally surrendering to hunger. She thinks of how hard she prayed for food, for help, for mercy that never came. And now the enemy has given her chocolate. The contradiction is no longer confusing. It is clarity. Brutal, devastating clarity. Her mother speaks into the darkness, her voice hollow. "When we return to Japan, we cannot tell them about this. We cannot tell them that we were treated better here than in our own homeland." Other voices murmur agreement. The shame is collective, suffocating. But Lily says nothing, because she is beginning to understand something the adults cannot yet accept. Loyalty to a nation that let you starve is not loyalty. It is delusion. The weeks following Christmas pass in a haze of emotional reckoning. The women begin to fracture into groups. Some, like Fumiko, double down on their rejection of American kindness, viewing it as manipulation. Others quietly accept their new reality, allowing themselves small moments of gratitude. And a few, like Lily's mother, exist in limbo, neither accepting nor rejecting, simply enduring. Lily observes it all with the sharp perception of a child who has aged beyond her years. She sees how survival requires adaptation, how clinging to old certainties can be more dangerous than embracing uncomfortable truths. In January, news arrives that repatriation will begin soon. The war is over. Japan has surrendered. The prisoners will be sent home. The announcement is met with silence. No celebration, no relief, because home is a word that no longer has clear meaning. That evening, Lily sits with Yuki near the barbed wire fence, watching the sun set over the Colorado plains. The sky bleeds orange and purple, vast and indifferent. "Are you afraid to go back?" Yuki asks. Lily nods. "Yes, me too." They sit in silence. Two children who have learned that the world is more complicated than good and evil, friend and enemy, right and wrong. The chocolate is long gone, but its sweetness lingers, not in taste, but in memory. A memory that will shape everything that comes next. February 1946. The ship that will carry them back to Japan sits in the harbor, grey and imposing, against an overcast sky. Lily stands on the dock with her mother and dozens of other women, their few possessions packed in small bags provided by the camp administration. The journey back is finally here. They are going home. But the word home tastes bitter in Lily's mouth. The voyage across the Pacific takes weeks. The ship is crowded, the conditions far harsher than a mache. Rations are meager. The air below deck is stale and suffocating. Yet no one complains. This discomfort feels appropriate, almost necessary, as if suffering is required to cleanse them of the comfort they accepted from the enemy. Lily spends hours on deck when allowed, watching the endless ocean. She thinks about the chocolate, the mirror, the smile of the young soldier who waved at her that first day. She wonders if he is still alive, if he ever thinks about the Japanese girl who stared at him with fear and confusion. Her mother stands beside her one afternoon, silent and gaunt. The weight she gained at Amache is already disappearing. Lily notices how her mother's hands tremble constantly now, how her eyes have lost their focus. "Mama, what will we find when we arrive?" Her mother's response is quiet, almost a whisper. "Whatever is left." When the ship finally approaches the Japanese coast, a collective gasp rises from the women on deck. But it is not a gasp of joy. It is horror. The coastline is decimated. Cities that once stood proud are now skeletal remains, buildings reduced to rubble, entire neighborhoods erased. The devastation stretches as far as the eye can see, a landscape of ash and destruction that seems to have no end. Lily's breath catches in her throat. She has heard about the bombings, about the atomic weapons, about Japan's defeat. But hearing and seeing are different universes of understanding. They disembark in silence. The dock is chaotic with displaced people, families searching for lost relatives, children wandering alone, elderly men and women sitting motionless amid the ruins. Everyone looks hollow, their faces marked by starvation and trauma. Lily and her mother make their way through the wreckage toward what used to be their neighborhood. With each step, the contrast between Amache and this becomes more obscene. At Amache there was food, clean water, medicine, safety. Here there is nothing. They find their house, or what remains of it. The structure is partially collapsed, the roof gone, walls blackened by fire. Inside, amid the debris, they find Lily's grandmother. She is alive, barely. Her body is skeletal, her skin stretched tight over bone. When she sees them, she weeps. "I thought you were dead," she whispers. "I prayed you were dead, because I thought death would be better than what I have endured." Lily's mother collapses beside her, holding the old woman. Lily stands frozen, unable to process the scene before her. Her grandmother, who raised her, who taught her to read, who sang her songs, reduced to this fragile shell. That night, they share a meal of watered-down rice and pickled radish. It is less food than Lily ate for a single breakfast at Amache. The guilt threatens to consume her. Her grandmother notices how healthy Lily looks compared to the other children in the neighborhood. "Where were you?" she asks. "How did you survive so well?" Lily's mother answers quickly. "We were fortunate. We found shelter. We managed." The lie sits heavy in the room. But what is the truth? That they were prisoners of the Americans, that they were fed and clothed and treated with dignity while their families starved. That Lily received chocolate on Christmas while her grandmother ate grass to survive. The truth is impossible, so they choose silence. In the weeks that follow, Lily watches her country struggle to rebuild. She sees children with swollen bellies begging for scraps. She sees women selling their bodies for food. She sees men with dead eyes, veterans who return to nothing, and every day she carries the memory of a mache like a secret shame, the memory of abundance in captivity, the memory of enemy kindness, the memory of being more human in a prison camp than in her own devastated homeland. One evening, sitting amid the ruins of her childhood home, Lily makes a decision. She will never speak of a mache. She will bury that experience deep inside, where it cannot complicate the narrative of suffering her country demands. But the memory will not stay buried. 50 years later. Lily is an old woman now, her hair silver, her hands marked by decades of labor and survival. She sits in a modest home in Tokyo, surrounded by her grandchildren. They are young, curious, untouched by war. They know only the Japan that rose from the ashes, prosperous, modern, peaceful. Her youngest grandson asks a question that pierces through time. "Grandmother, what was the war like?" Lily is silent for a long moment. She has spent half a century avoiding this question, burying the memories of a mache beneath layers of silence and shame. But she is old now, and the weight of unspoken truth has become unbearable. "The war taught me something unexpected," she begins slowly. "It taught me that enemies are not monsters, they are people. And sometimes, people you are told to hate will show you more humanity than those you are told to love." Her daughter, listening from the doorway, stiffens. This is not the story she expected. Lily continues, her voice steady. "True loyalty is not blind obedience to a flag or a nation. True loyalty is to humanity itself, to kindness, to dignity, to the recognition that we are all fragile, all capable of cruelty, and all capable of grace." She looks at her grandchildren, their innocent faces absorbing her words. "Never let anyone teach you to hate without question. Never let patriotism become an excuse for refusing to see the humanity in others. That is the lesson I learned too late, in a place I was never supposed to find compassion." The room is silent. The past and present converge in this moment, a testimony finally spoken, a truth finally released. Lily closes her eyes, and for the first time in 50 years, she allows herself to remember a mache without shame.